Hopefully this works better than last week. I have no idea what was going on, and it may very well have been the internet here at the house because we had that storm Wednesday night or Thursday, and power went out. And when it came back on, our internet didn't come back with it.
Hmm.
We had this little black box as a modem that just would not work. They sent us a replacement, and that one didn't work either. So I'm wondering if the recording problems were coming from that black box,
Hmm.
causing some sort of interference.
Maybe.
Because one of the issues that we had on sound wise, like video wise, everybody was good. Everybody's lips were syncing the way they were supposed to. It was just the sound. You know what dial up sounds like?
Yeah.
I
I
would
do.
get those sounds.
Oh, yeah. That was your connector thing then, for sure.
I was like, how do I edit that out? There's no way to do that. Are we ready? I'm
Sure.
not. Let me finish here. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's okay. I haven't quite decided on a title. I got two titles.
Okay.
I never have titles.
I haven't decided on which one.
I actually have a title this time.
Nice.
So I was just showing Shalon that it looks like I murdered my story because all this red that you see is
Uh-huh.
on every stinking page.
Okay.
So I finally just quit editing. I was like, no, Every time I read this, I have to retype it, and then I retype it, and then I edit it again, and I have to retype it. So no. When I told you I was going to go through and check for continuity,
Yeah.
this is what came out. So I was like, okay, no, okay, I'm done. I'm putting it down.
Hmm.
Put your pens and pencils away. All right. Welcome back to another episode, the final episode of October for Sister Sharpens Sister. We all got the black memo except for Gemma, but she is in fall colors, which is very appropriate.
Mm.
Hmm.
And it
Um,
says, trust in the Lord.
That's
awesome.
good. Hmm.
All right. So another story time. That's what we're doing. My name is
Hmm.
Karen. Delina is in the black, and Shalon is in the black.
Anna's in the
Anna's in
black.
the black. All right. Who's going to go first?
Not it. Not it, she says.
Well, I've got 5,232 words, counting both of the titles because I haven't decided on my title yet. I got two of them. So I
I'm
got,
probably around
500.
3,000. So,
I guess it's me, since Anna doesn't want to do it.
okay.
okay,
Okay. Are we ready?
Sure.
let's
Oh,
go. Action.
wait.
What?
We got to do the background for this one.
Oh, yeah.
The background for this one was Anna came up with the characters, and I came up with the time and the place.
Mm-hmm.
So Anna's characters are Lola and Leah, twins, age 15. Midnight, she is 16, and Jeremiah, he is 15. And then the time and place was 1999 and trick or treating in a neighborhood. So, okay. Editing Karen coming to you to say that the following stories are protected by copyright under the U.S. copyright laws. Each story is the property of the individual reading the story aloud and may not, under any circumstances, be reproduced in any format without express written consent of said owner. All rights are reserved. Treating in a neighborhood. So, okay, now I go.
Were they
Just forget
really
that
supposed to
part.
be twins?
Yes.
Oh, I missed that part.
That's all right.
Oh, well. Okay. Trick or treat, said the four teenage friends as the little old lady opened the door. She smiled back at their smiling faces. You are the four happiest kids I've seen all night. She gave each of them a huge handful of candy, saying, "If I don't get rid of it, I'll end up eating it." They all laughed, and the four friends said thank you as they turned to walk down the driveway. Get off of me. It's like leaning on me. Man, Jeremiah said, exhausted. I really wish we would have listened to you, Midnight, when you suggested we take your car. My feet are killing me. Dude, your feet? Said Lola with all the sarcasm she could muster. Try walking in high heels all night. Leah and Midnight laughed at their companions. We have a good mile till we're back at my house. I can drive everyone home, Midnight said, surveying the streets to see where they were at. She pointed right to go toward Magnolia Drive. She lived at the end of Magnolia at the cul-de-sac. Thank you, said the three 15-year-olds. Might as well keep getting candy as we go, said Jeremiah. Lo, I can give you a piggyback ride if you like. Lola smiled ear to ear and quickly obliged by jumping on his back. Why is that weird? The friends hit every house that had the porch light on for a while, but now the houses were just dark. What time is it? Asked Leah. Lola looked at her new fossil watch she had just gotten for her birthday. Almost 9. No wonder we're all dragging butts, she said. We should be close to your house by now, Nye. Where are we? Jeremiah asked as he put Lola down. Looks like we made a wrong turn. Turn? We didn't turn anywhere, Midnight said, looking around. The four of them didn't recognize anything. The houses were not the nice houses that lined Magnolia Drive. They were old and run down, like no one lived in them. They all looked at one another just as confused as the next. The street was very dark and very quiet. Magnolia was one of the main drags through the neighborhood. It shouldn't be this quiet, even at 9 p.m. No, I think we turned off back a ways, Leah said, pointing in the direction they had just come from. We must have, Midnight said, as they all turned to start walking back. They got to a crossroad and read the sign. Magnolia Drive and Weston Lane, it read. Wait, we are on Magnolia, Jeremiah said. What's going on? The friends were all starting to get weirded out. Let's turn back and get to Nye's house as fast as we can, Lola suggested, taking off her heels. I bet I can beat you, she said, challenging Jeremiah. Jeremiah liked Lola and her feistiness. As if, he said, taking off running. You cheater! Lola yelled, and the three girls hightailed it behind him. Jeremiah had run for a bit and glanced behind him to see how far back the girls were, but there was no one there. He stopped so they could catch up. Panting and walking in circles, he expected to see them come up, or hear them come up, but they never did. Ha ha, very funny, he yelled, thinking they were trying to hide and scare him. Y'all can come out now, I'll let you win, he said, looking all around. Crickets. That's all he heard. Come on, Lola, I know you're hiding trying to scare me. Still nothing. Not even the telltale giggle that gave them away every time they tried to prank the prankmaster. Lo, Nye, Leah, he yelled. You win. Good job. Now come out. I don't like this, Jeremiah said as his heart started to beat fast again. No peeking.
Okay.
This is so not cool, he said to himself as panic started to set in. He decided to walk to Midnight's house because they would have to go there. The houses were still dark and weird looking to him. Did everyone decide to go to bed at 9 p.m. around here or what? He said aloud, trying to lighten his mood. Or maybe there's a power outage, he thought. That would make sense. Jeremiah reached the cul-de-sac and Midnight's house, or what was supposed to be her house. Midnight's family was well-to-do. Her dad was an orthopedic surgeon, and her mom was a shrink. And their house was the most beautiful on the block. But this house was not the same. But at the same time, it was the same. Jeremiah was so confused that he just sat down on the front porch to wait. Lola, Leah, and Midnight kept running, but never caught up to Jeremiah. I can't believe he just ran off and left us, Lola said, out of breath. We can't let him live this one down. The girls all stopped, exhausted from trying to catch up to him. Nye, where's your house? Leah asked. We should be there by now. It's just ahead. Let's walk the rest of the way, Midnight said, grabbing her friends by their arms. The houses looked normal again to the girls, and when they got to Midnight's house, they expected to see Jeremiah sitting on the front porch, but he wasn't there. He's trying to scare us, Lola said, looking around to see what bush he was about to jump out of. Come out, Jeremiah! You won, and we're exhausted, Lola yelled. Let's go home. But nothing. All the girls started to look for him, and Midnight's mom came out hearing the yelling to make sure everything was okay. Mom, is Jeremiah inside? Midnight asked. No, honey, I haven't seen him, she said. He's probably just trying to scare us, but we thought that he would be back by now. All three girls and Midnight's mom started looking around the house for him. When they met back up at the front porch without him, they all got worried. The three friends all held hands and screamed his name at the same time as loud as they could. Jeremiah!
We should hold them.
Oh, sorry. No, it'll blast the sound and they won't be able to hear. Jeremiah looked up quickly, hearing his name, but no one was there. He ran out into the yard. Lola, he yelled, where are you? I'm done playing games. Nothing. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated and scared for his friends. Where are they? He asked himself as he ran up on the porch and knocked on the door. He was going to get Midnight's parents involved. At this point, they were missing persons as far as he was concerned. But no one answered the door. Mr. and Mrs. Talbot, Jeremiah yelled, knocking louder. Still no answer. He racked his brain trying to remember if they were going out tonight or what, but he swore Nye's mom had said that she would be here when they got back. More frustrated than ever, Jeremiah kicked a small planter off the porch into the driveway. Lola, Leah, Midnight, and her mom were all pacing in the circular driveway. Mr. Talbot was calling the police. If Jeremiah was playing a trick, it had gone too far. But they all knew he wouldn't pull a prank like this.
Prank.
I was going to say trick. Prank like this. Especially after they had all threatened into the darkness that they were calling the cops. No one saw what made the planter move. It just tipped over and toppled down the stairs. All the girls stopped pacing and looked at each other. Who did that? Nye asked Leah. I don't know, she said, panicked. Girls, let's go inside and wait for the police, Mrs. Talbot suggested, seeing that the girls were scared and exhausted. Lola and Leah, you can call your parents and let them know you're safe. You can stay the night too if you like. I can run you both home when I go to work at 5 a.m. You'll have plenty of time to get ready for school. Leah and Lola both called their parents, and they let them stay the night with what was going on. They wanted to make sure Jeremiah was okay when he showed up. Everyone was so certain that he would show up, but Midnight couldn't shake the feeling of dread building up in the pit of her stomach. Something wasn't right. Jeremiah stood on the front porch, hand on his hips, trying to make sense of the night's events. Out of nowhere, the door behind him creaked open. He spun around and expected to see the girls or the Talbots, but no one was there. Jeremiah slowly walked toward the open door. The house was dark and it smelled different, like old basements, damp and musky. He pushed the door open all the way and stood there a moment. It was so strange. Everything was different, but wasn't. The house looked old and the paint was chipping. The nice entryway with the expensive oriental rug was now dusty and dirty. The chandelier was covered in cobwebs. Jeremiah tried the light switch on the wall. Nothing. Of course, no power. I've seen these horror movies before, he said, stepping into the foyer. You can come out now, he yelled. He knew the Talbots knew the producer of the show Candid Camera. He knew the girls had been talking about pulling a prank on him on the show to get back for all the pranks that he had pulled since the 3rd grade. But still no answer. Jeremiah was starting to think he was going crazy. He slowly walked through the house. Everything was just as it was, except now everything was dirty and damp and creepy as hell. I promise I will never pull another prank on anyone, he said, pleading into the dust and the cobwebs, hoping that all of a sudden the lights would come on and everyone would jump out. This just ain't right, he whispered. He made his way up the stairs to Midnight's room. Again, it was all the same, but not. He glanced at his watch, 11:30. I just want to go home, he said, and he moved towards the window. The girls were sitting in Midnight's room on her bed. It was 11:30 p.m. The police had come and took a report and put out an APB for a 15-year-old white male, 5'10", 180 pounds, brown eyes and brown hair. Ghostface was the costume he was wearing. Leah had tears in her eyes. She cared for Jeremiah more than she wanted to admit. He had always been the boy that had pulled pranks on them, but he had also been the one who would defend them against anyone saying bad things or anyone trying to be mean to them. Lately, Lola's feelings were moving more towards wanting Jeremiah to be more than just friends. Leah and Midnight snuggled Lola, one on each side. They'll find him, Leah encouraged. But Midnight couldn't say anything. She just held her friend. She knew something was wrong. The three of them just sat there staring out the window. Jeremiah looked out the window. The woods behind the house seemed more menacing than usual. The trees bent and shifted, and the wind whistled as it blew across the house. He shivered and looked down at the windowsill. Midnight kept her music box collection there. Small, dainty porcelain boxes in the shape of a ladybug, a carousel, a teddy bear, and Mickey Mouse from her trip to Florida 2 summers ago. And they were all there, but they were all dusty and dirty. I just don't get it, Jeremiah said. He took the Mickey Mouse music box and wound it up. It played It's a Small World, and he set it down and looked up. In the window, he could see his reflection, and behind him, he could see his friends sitting on Midnight's bed. He whirled around, but saw nothing. Nothing but dust and dirt on the bed. Lola! He yelled as loud as he could. The girls watched as the wind picked up and whistled around the house. It's a Small World filled the room out of nowhere. The Mickey Mouse music box was on the windowsill was playing by itself. The three friends sat straight up in bed and grasped each other's hands. Lola! Mom, I know what I heard, Midnight demanded. Leah and Lola both agreed. They had all heard it. The music box played by itself, and they all heard Jeremiah's voice yell Lola's name. If Jeremiah was in your room, we would have found him, Mr. Talbot said. The girls felt helpless. Mr. and Mrs. Talbot were right. Even though they knew what they had experienced and heard, it sounded like they were crazy. Mrs. Talbot studied the girls for a moment. Did you eat any candy tonight before you got home? She asked. Yes, we all did, Midnight said. Why? Are you thinking they've been drugged? Mr. Talbot asked his wife. It's possible, Mrs. Talbot said, worried. All right, let's call Leah and Lola's parents and have them meet us at the hospital. "50 years had passed since Jeremiah's disappearance."
What? Holy cow. That's like longer away from now.
I know it is, hush. The girls all stayed in touch through the years. The neighborhood just isn't the same, is it? Midnight said to Leah and Lola as they made their way up the circular driveway. Midnight's childhood home still stood. They moved out the year after the disappearance, and it was on the market yet again. Midnight had followed the house as it went on and off the market. It had seen many families come and go through the years, but not one of them staying more than 6 or 7 years.
What?
Sorry, I had to do it.
So, did you actually write that?
I did.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay. Are you going to buy it? Leela asked Midnight, walking up the front stairs. Leah. Sorry, Leah. I thought about it, but I don't know if I could ever live here again after what happened. You could do an Airbnb, Leah suggested. That's a good idea, Lola said, making her way into the house after the real estate agent had opened the door. The girls walked through the house, remarking on how people had changed certain things, like taking the gas stove and making it electric. The bathrooms all had their bathtubs removed and only showers installed now. Who doesn't love a nice long bath? Leah asked. I think it's stupid that a house doesn't have a bathtub in it. It's me. Lola and Midnight laughed. Not everyone is as spry as you, Leah. We all can't just get down into a bathtub with ease anymore, Lola said. When they reached Midnight's old room, they all just stood there. After all these years, and I still don't want to go in there, Midnight said. Lola moved first and opened the door. The room was empty, like the rest of the house, but the air was heavy. The three friends moved about the room slowly, each one remembering the Halloween of 1999 when Jeremiah disappeared. I swear it feels like something else is in this room, Midnight said, getting a chill. My friends have finally come back, Jeremiah said, standing up from the windowsill. The end.
I don't get it.
Okay,
Yours is good.
so that was mine.
I
Why
liked
do you have to make it 50 years later? You
I
could
don't
have made it
know.
like 2 years later.
No, it needed to be longer.
My iPad is having technical difficulties with uploading my story, so I can't read it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's like the internet's not working, and I tried to restart it and it's still not working.
All
Okay.
right, well, Karen, Dee Dee?
I'll go next if you want me to.
Okay, that's fine. I don't care.
Okay. Pardon me while I try to decipher my chicken scratches. Oh, and by the way, Halloween 1999 was actually on a Sunday.
It was
Yes,
a
it
Sunday,
was.
yeah.
So,
That's why she was going to take them home when she went to work so they could get ready for school.
I caught that.
Mhm.
All right. I titled mine Halloween in Brooks Hollow. The moon hung over the little New England town of Brooks Hollow, wrapping the streets in a soft glow. Jack-o'-lanterns flickered on porches and plastic skeletons swayed in the breeze. 15-year-old Lola adjusted the hood of her red cloak and looked at her twin sister. Leah, she said, if anyone gives us candy corn again this year, I'm going to egg their house. She was dressed as Little Red Riding Hood, basket and all. Leah grinned and said, "Well, that's the spirit." Not surprisingly, she was also dressed as Little Red Riding Hood, identical to her sister. Behind them trailed their friend, 16-year-old Midnight, whose fairy costume sparkled in the streetlights. She had spent weeks hot gluing sequins to her skirt, and now she bedazzled with every step. "You two have no class," she said, as she came alongside them, her iridescent wings swaying as she walked. She had also made those, and obviously, clearly, she enjoyed crafting as much as she enjoyed dressing as a fairy. "Your wings are blinding," muttered Jeremiah, her 15-year-old brother, the same age as the twins. "And for the record, I happen to like candy corn." Clearly, his costume was an afterthought. Black t-shirt, black jeans, black shoes, black plastic cape that was actually a trash bag, and plastic vampire teeth from a gumball machine. The twins groaned in unison. "Of course you like candy corn." It was their annual tradition. 4 friends, 4 pillowcases, and the goal of hitting every house with a porch light on. The sound of Thriller drifted from passing cars, and somewhere down the street, Monster Mash was playing from a very loud speaker system in somebody's house. They made their way down Maple Street, already laughing about who was wearing the worst costume. They went up the sidewalk of the town's favorite granny. Mrs. Penwick answered the door and said, "Well, hello, you look wonderful," she said, and handed them a plate of cookies, and they each took one. The house glowed with warm yellow light, and paper bats dangled from the eaves. Mrs. Penwick, Brooks Hollow's kindly neighborhood grandmother, had lived there forever. Her house always smelled like fresh-baked cookies. "Thanks, Mrs. Penwick," Leah said, taking a cookie. "You make the best chocolate chips in town." "Thank you, Leah," the woman said. She knew the names of all the children in town, and although she was smiling, it faltered as she set the plate of cookies on her porch railing. "Be careful tonight. There's a little boy missing." "Missing?" Lola asked. All 4 of them became serious after hearing that. "Yes." Mrs. Penwick's hands trembled as she pulled her shawl around her shoulders. "His name is Micah, and he's only 4. He wandered off a couple hours ago while trick-or-treating, and his parents are frantic." "That's awful," said Midnight. "What does he look like?" "Oh, he's a tiny thing," said the old woman. "Blonde hair, blue eyes, dressed as a black skeleton, with the white bones painted on like a black sweatsuit. He was wearing an orange pumpkin mask. I believe the officer said he was last seen near Maple and Chestnut Streets." Jeremiah looked down the street in the direction of Chestnut, near the edge of town, and he could see the faint red and blue glow of police lights as they flashed in the distance. "Thank you for letting us know," Lola said. "We'll keep an eye out." "Please do," said Mrs. Penwick, giving each of them a second cookie. "And don't go near the woods. Strange things happen there in the dark." The 4 of them looked at each other and headed off the porch. At the end of the block, they saw the police. 2 cruisers idled with the lights flashing. Officers were speaking with a man and a woman who looked hollow-eyed with panic. The mother, obviously, was clutching a plastic pumpkin bucket, empty and cracked on one side. One policeman with a dog was walking up the street towards them, headed towards Mrs. Penwick's house, while another was stopping groups as they passed by. One officer was gently talking to Micah's mother. "Ma'am, we have search teams canvassing the area. We're doing everything we can to find him." Friends hesitated as they walked by, feeling the weight of the situation. Lola turned to the others suddenly. "We should help. We know this neighborhood better than anybody." Jeremiah rubbed his neck, obviously nervous. "Shouldn't we just leave it to the cops?" "We know all the hiding spots that they don't," Midnight said. Leah nodded. "Let's split up for 20 minutes and meet at the playground." They all looked at their watches, nodded their heads, and headed out. Fog crept in as they fanned out through the neighborhood. Street lights were glowing like halos and every rustle made them twitch as they moved further away from the bustle of the event. Lola and Leah moved together, quick and silent. They had always been in sync, in thought and in motion, and tonight that bond felt sharper somehow. The scent of wet leaves and the feint of something frightening. It pulled at instincts they didn't yet fully understand, ones they had always kept to themselves. I swear I can smell him, Leah murmured. Lola shot her a quick look. Don't start that here. I mean it, Leah said. The air is just different. They turned around corners, checked under porches and in backyards until they reached a trail entrance that led towards the woods. Candy wrappers fluttered by their feet, and that's when they saw it as they looked down, a tiny footprint in the mud. That looks small enough for a 4-year-old, Leah said. Meanwhile, a few streets over, Midnight's flashlight was cutting through the fog. Micah, where are you? Something flickered at the edge of her vision, almost like lightning, but not quite. And her senses were humming with unease. They say that the veil between worlds is always thinner on Halloween night, and she had always believed that. Excuse me. She whispered a prayer of protection under her breath and closed her eyes. Ancient emotions stirred as she released that pent-up breath. As she opened her eyes, a glittering mist dissipated into the cool night air. Jeremiah was checking a back alley just across from Midnight when a black cat darted out from underneath a trash can and made him jump. Oh, perfect, he said. Heart attack by feline. But then he noticed something out of place. A small orange mask lying in the gutter. He crouched down to pick it up and said, oh no, and ran towards the meeting spot. They gathered at the playground and it was deserted, swings creaking in the wind. Jeremiah held up the mask. I found this in an alley over behind Mrs. Penwick's, near the corner of where he was last seen. Midnight's eyes got wide. That has to be his. Leah pointed towards the same woods. We saw footprints heading in that direction. Jeremiah frowned. Mrs. Penwick has warned us to stay out of there. Lola crossed her arms and said sternly, a 4-year-old is in there. We're not staying out. They stood at the tree line, flashlights sweeping through the fog and the fallen leaves. The woods felt like a hole that swallowed the beams of their flashlights, making it even darker. Micah, Midnight called. Your parents are looking for you. They slowly worked their way deeper into the wooded area, and after a good 10 minutes of slow progress, they heard the faint crying of a child and bolted towards the sound. The forest floor was slick with the leaves and recent rains. Jeremiah stumbled, not once, but twice, and cussed under his breath every time. The crying grew louder, and they finally spotted him hiding, the tiny blonde-headed boy cowering between a large rock and a fallen tree, his skeleton costume smeared with dirt, cheeks stained with tears. Midnight ran forward and dropped to her knees. Micah, it's okay. He pointed behind her, and his eyes were huge with fear. That doggy chased me, he said through his tears. Lola turned as she saw a dark shape moving in the fog, low to the ground, amber eyes glinting. A stray dog, but it was huge. Growling, it started to circle the group. Back away, Lola whispered. Do not run, Leah added. Midnight swallowed hard. We need to distract it. Jeremiah stepped forward. He was trembling, but he said, I can do that. And he picked up a big stick lying at his feet. Before anyone could react, he took off and threw the stick at the dog and ran into the trees, yelling, Hey, Lassie, over here! The big thing snarled and lunged after him as he disappeared into the darkness. Midnight screamed as she scooped Micah into her arms. Leah and Lola instinctively placed themselves between the ruckus that was happening and their best friend holding a scared child. They could hear Jeremiah crashing through the underbrush as he ran. Their flashlights couldn't penetrate the fog. The wild dog growled and barked every time Jeremiah yelled an insult at it, almost like it could understand what he was saying. Then they were met with silence. Even the woods seemed to be holding its breath. Suddenly, the dog growled to their left and leapt through the clearing in front of them and went after something underneath a patch of rhododendrons. The dog's growl shifted into confusion and then silence once again. A second later, a shadow darted through the trees, sleek and fast. It looked feline and powerful. Twins blinked, unsure of what they'd just seen. "What's that?" Lola whispered. "No idea," said Leah. Her heart was pounding. "Let's get Micah and get the hell out of here." Midnight lifted the boy and was holding him tight, murmuring soothing words as they hurried back towards the neighborhood. The woods seemed to exhale, letting loose of a held breath. The fog was thinning, as if it... I can't read my writing. As if it were satisfied. When they reached the playground area, Jeremiah was already there. Panting and flushed, they could see that his plastic cape was torn to shreds, and the left knee of his black jeans was torn open, a scrape obviously underneath. But otherwise, he was unharmed. "Are you okay?" Lola asked. "Yeah, the dog's gone. Must have gotten scared off." Midnight eyed him. "Scared off by what exactly?" she said as she put her hand on her hip. He shrugged and said, "I guess I'm more intimidating than I look." And then he turned and led the way back to the boy's parents. Nobody bothered to argue. They carried Micah until the flashing lights came into view again. Midnight put him down and he ran towards his mother, her sobs echoing in the air. "Micah!" she cried, dropping to her knees. "Oh, thank God!" The father looked at the teenagers, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Where was he?" Leah nodded. "He was in the woods. He's cold and scared, but otherwise he seems okay." An officer stepped forward and said, "We'll take it from here. You kids did a good thing." Lola smiled faintly. "We were happy to help." As Micah's parents carried him to the cruiser, the boy looked back over his mother's shoulder and waved, "Bye-bye, fairy lady." Midnight waved back, her wings glinting. "Bye-bye, skeleton boy." They walked silently down the street, each in their own thoughts. Jeremiah looked at Mrs. Penwick's house as they passed. He saw her looking out the front window and grinned at her as he walked down the sidewalk. She gave him a knowing nod and turned off her porch light. Trick-or-treating was over, and the bustle of earlier had been laid to rest. The four stood under a street lamp where they had tossed their candy bags, where they lay limp and forgotten. They bent to retrieve them and were pleasantly surprised to find each of them had a good amount of candy inside. "Well," Jeremiah said flatly, "best Halloween ever?" Leah dryly replied, "Almost got eaten by a wolf dog thing, but top 10 at least." Lola smirked. "Admit it, though, we did do a good thing." Midnight was still brushing leaves off of her skirt and said, "Yeah, we did." There was a pause, long enough for everyone to feel the weight of unspoken questions. Leah glanced at Jeremiah. "That thing in the woods, you sure it just ran away?" He avoided her gaze. "Positive," he said, busying himself with looking through the pillowcase. Midnight tilted her head. "You two, how did you even see that thing? And you moved like you knew exactly where it was and what it was going to do." Lola and Leah looked at one another, a glance that said volumes. "Good instincts," Lola said simply. Midnight smiled knowingly, but let it go. "Well, whatever. It worked." A faint rustling came from the hedges nearby. The twins tensed automatically and then relaxed when a raccoon scurried out, dragging someone's half-eaten candy bar. Jeremiah sighed a relieved sound and said, "Hey, maybe that's the real monster of Brook Hollow." They all laughed, the tension melting into the night. As they walked home under the fading moonlight, the houses darkened one by one behind them. Adrenaline was replaced with exhaustion as they went their separate ways. Later that night at the twins' house, Lola and Leah were on the porch. Lola was sitting on the porch railing while Leah was dividing their candy haul. "We're keeping all the peanut butter cups," Leah declared as she made two neat piles. Lola grinned. "You know we can't even eat half of this before Christmas gets here." Leah shrugged. "Well, we'll trade it for extra pizza tomorrow at school." They both laughed quietly. After a moment, Lola said, "Do you think they know? Did they figure it out?" Leah shook her head. "Nah, we were careful. Jeremiah, though, he moved fast." Leah thought, "Yeah, too fast." The two sisters shook their heads, their silhouettes outlined by the moon, and for just a moment, the light caught the faintest gleam of amber in their eyes. Secrets were safer when everyone kept their own. Across town, midnight sat by her bedroom window, moonlight glinting on the tiny charms that were hanging there. Her reflection shimmered faintly, like a halo. "Good instincts," she whispered, smiling. Jeremiah was in their backyard, tossing his ruined vampire cape into the trash can. Well, he was putting a torn trash bag into the trash. He looked over the woods. His eyes flashed yellow for just a heartbeat. "Yeah," he said, "good instincts." The four teens would always remember the Halloween of 1999 and something very, very important. That sometimes the weird people who are exactly just a little bit different are the ones you want by your side when darkness comes calling. The end.
All right, Dee Dee, let's go.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Well, I have two titles. I didn't know which one to pick. So one of them is The October Project. The other one is Samhain Shadow. So I was kind of leaning more towards Samhain Shadow. So it was October 1999. And at 16, I was convinced I had life all figured out. My journalism class was my favorite, and I just pitched an unprecedented idea to my teacher, a video project documenting the evolution of Halloween in our town. I loved the idea, and thankfully so did she. Little did I know this ambitious project would lead me down a path far more ancient and terrifying than I could have ever imagined, forcing me to confront beliefs I stubbornly dismissed as mere superstition. My folks gave me permission to use their digital palm quarter for my project, which was good. I preferred this because I didn't have to check out a recording device from the school, and since it was digital, editing was easier with more options. Several weeks before Halloween, I started doing my research. I had lots of information about Halloween and how it started around 2,000 years ago with the Celts and their festival of Samhain, which, by the way, is not pronounced how it's spelled, and how the Celts believed the boundary between the living and the dead blurred on October 31st, the end of summer and the harvest, and how they lit bonfires and wore costumes to ward off spirits. I didn't believe any of it. I thought it was just a bunch of uneducated people who lacked scientific knowledge, so they believed ridiculous things. I also thought this about other cultures and faiths, including the Christian faith of my grandparents and the Jewish faith of one of my closest friends. As I worked on my research, I started videoing many things. I even recorded myself doing the research. Well, I didn't record myself. I asked my friend Jeremiah to help me with this. He had moved to our town the previous year and lived next door to me. For his 15th birthday celebration that summer, his folks had a big party at their house. You see, he's an artist, a real artist. And it was at this party they gave him his digital art studio they set up in their attic. They also made room for his traditional art studio by putting it near the windows while having the digital studio sectioned off away from the natural light. He had all he needed to pursue his art interests, whether they be traditional art or digital art. And he used his artistic skills, traditional and digital, to help me with my project. His immense knowledge of technology also helped. So my friends and I decided to gather at my house on the Saturday before Halloween to hang out and watch scary movies on TV. We all lived in the same neighborhood, so it was easy for us to meet up. Jeremiah lived next door to me, like I said before, and Lola and Leah, identical twins who were also 15, lived across the street. For Halloween, my mother and father usually held the most awesome Halloween parties, but Halloween 1999 was different. My father is an anthropologist who, by association, also studies archaeology. My mother is an historical sociologist, so she's an historian who specializes in sociology. So my parents knew and know a lot about ancient cultures and people, including Samhain, the predecessor to Halloween. And just as a note, my father is also an expert in linguistics. He simply has a talent for languages. This is very useful for him with his translations, including translations of ancient languages. In 1999, we didn't have an awesome Halloween party because my father arranged an exhibit at the university where he and my mother were professors. The exhibit was about descendants of ancient Celts in our communities and their festival of Samhain. He was on a local archaeological expedition wherein they found many artifacts that were linked to the Samhain festival. He was able to arrange an exhibit at the university to open Halloween weekend 1999. It was also a fundraiser for the university's anthropology and history departments. So he and my mother were there, not at home hosting an awesome Halloween party. The parents of my friends received special invitations to the event, so they were also gone the Saturday before Halloween that year. We were alone. My plan that Saturday was to record the kiddos in their costumes in our neighborhood. Lots of kiddos did their trick or treating in my neighborhood. My street and several adjacent streets were some of the best in our little suburban town for trick or treating. People from all around came every Halloween. This gave me ample recording opportunities with people in costumes. Lots of parents also dressed up like their young kids. How many kids did you get? Lola asked. I'm not sure, several, but I want to get more, I answered. Lola and I grew up together, so we knew each other as far back as either of us can remember. Well, I should say she and her twin sister Leah and I grew up together. The three of us were very close. Lola loved kids, especially the really young kids, before 8 years or so. Leah, on the other hand, didn't care much for kids, so she wasn't with us for this recording of my project. Jeremiah had something with the other young man at his synagogue until late that afternoon, so he wasn't with us either. I want to get some shots of the costume kiddos with the sun setting. I can use it to morph into a more sinister side of Halloween, I told Lola. Oh, I want to watch the video. We will, just not right now. Lola frowned and pouted with a furrowed brow and said, okay, and she started smiling again. The sun was setting and the last of the trick-or-treaters were leaving. Our town had a Halloween curfew, so young people had to be inside a residence or a business like a bowling alley or something by sundown. It was our town's tough on crime stance against juvenile crime. We didn't care about the curfew because we were all usually at my house on Halloween anyway. When I finished recording the kiddos, Lola and I got to my house and we met up with Leah and Jeremiah. We planned to meet at sundown at my place. How many minutes of recording did you get? Jeremiah asked. Not sure. 1, 2 hours maybe, I answered. Did you record all of it? He asked. I answered with a nod. We all went inside my house and went to the TV room. This is where the computer stuff was for me to use for school. It's cold in here, Lola said. I pointed to my grandmother's chair and said to Lola, you can wrap Grandma's Afghan around you if you want. Thanks. She made this, didn't she? Yeah, can't you tell? It's got all those crosses on it. Right, Lola said with a nod, and she wrapped herself in Grandma's warm blanket. Hey, Midnight, hand me the camera. I'll download your footage, Jeremiah said. I gave him the camera, and he connected the firewire and downloaded what Lola and I got today. This battery life is really low. Didn't you charge it before going out? Yes, Jeremiah, I did. But the camera's battery is not holding a charge for long. Since when? He asked. Since yesterday, I answered. Did you damage it or anything? When did you use it last before tonight? You know, if you don't use them, it can hurt the battery life. No, I didn't damage it or anything, and I know it needs to be used to keep the battery good. I used it yesterday to get some footage for my project, and I've been using it this whole time. What did you record yesterday? Leah asked. I paused before answering. I wasn't sure how my friends would respond to where I went. I went through the woods at the end of our street to the old farmhouse and got some pics and video. You did not, Lola said in surprise. Yes, I did. That place is haunted or something. It's got demons in it or something, Lola said with a very serious look on her face. I don't believe in any of that stuff. You know that. Besides, all I did was get some pictures and video. No big deal. I said to my friends, not being entirely truthful with what I did when I was there. I would have done almost anything to get good footage for my project. You should have got us, or at least one of us, to go with you, Nye, Leah said. You all had plans yesterday after school. Besides, I left a note for my folks so if it happened, they would know where I went. I answered them. The truth is, I didn't want any of them to go with me. I didn't want them to know what I did when I was there. Although Lola and Leah were not religious in the traditional sense, they did believe all the ghost and demon stories about the house and the property. Jeremiah didn't grow up here, so he wasn't as familiar with the house and property as we were. And although he was not an Orthodox Jew, his family does attend synagogue. So I'm sure he would not have approved of what I did when I was there. But at this point, I kept it all to myself. Jeremiah downloaded the footage of the trick-or-treaters onto my computer for editing. He plugged the palm quarter in to recharge the batteries. We all went to the kitchen and got snacks to eat while we watched some scary movies. We sat on the couch and on the floor watching the movies. Jeremiah checked on the palm quarter and its battery during a commercial. This thing's not taking a charge. Are you sure you didn't damage it, get it wet or anything? He said. I answered while slowly shaking my head back and forth, cramming popcorn into my mouth. I did. Pausing to chew. Not, I answered. Okay, well, you're going to have to use another machine if you want to get more footage for your project. Shh, the movie's back on, Lola said. No, why would they do that? That's just stupid, Leah said in response to the TV characters running to the basement for an escape instead of outside. You know, I forgot to record some footage of the vacant lot and the woods at the end of our street. I want to record that for filler if I need it, I said to my friends. You mean B-roll? Jeremiah asked. Yes, B-roll. Do you have another recorder you can use? Leah asked. I think my dad still has the older camcorder in his office. I'm going to go look. I left the TV room and went upstairs to Dad's office and found the older analog palmcorder. It used the smaller VHS-C tapes. They only held about 30 minutes of footage, but I didn't need much to get the filler footage I wanted. I quickly found the old camcorder on one of my dad's shelves. I grabbed it, turned it on, opened the flip-out screen, and checked the battery life. It had enough charge. I opened the tape compartment. No tape. I looked through the drawers of my dad's desk and found a few mini VHS tapes. One wasn't even open. I took it, opened it, put it in the tape compartment. I hit record and looked at the flip-out screen. It looked like it was recording. I stopped recording, rewound the tape, and played what I just recorded on the flip-out screen. I saw some of the artifacts from my dad's local expedition, a few of the ones I took with me to the old farmhouse the night before. The recording worked, so I put the tape back to the beginning so I could record over the test recording. I turned the machine off and went back downstairs to the TV room. Got it. Who wants to go with me? I do. Can I record it? Lola said. Do you know how to use it? I asked. Sure. How hard can it be? She replied. Lola was one of my best friends, but she was a bit, how can I put this, ditzy. She wasn't stupid or anything. She was actually a bit of a math genius, but she was ditzy. Leah, her identical twin sister, had a totally opposite personality. They looked exactly the same, but they didn't act the same. I guess you could say that in our little group of friends, Lola was comic relief. I know I laughed many, many times because of her. I loved her and still do, even though we don't see each other or talk as much as I'd like. We all decided to go together to do the B-roll footage. As I said before, I wanted to record the vacant lot at the end of the street. It was on the opposite side of the street of my house, but I could easily see it from my yard. That's where I first started recording the B-roll of the vacant lot. I walked out onto the street and got shots of the rock wall with woods behind it. And when I got to Miss Margaret's house, I got footage of her house as well. We all slowly walked down the street as I filmed. I felt a tap on my shoulder. I hit the record button to stop the recording. Are you going to let me record some? Please, 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 please. I want to help you with your big project, Lola said to me with pleading eyes and a frown on her pouty lips. Okay, you need to move slowly over the landscape. Don't move fast. That's very important. Okay, Lola said. I gave her the camera and looked at Leah and Jeremiah. They both had big smiles on their faces. I shrugged my shoulders and made a why not look on my face. They both nodded. I saw the small red light near the lens light up, so I knew the camera was recording. Lola slowly walked toward the vacant lot and slowly moved the camera over the landscape. She moved her shot from the vacant lot to the rock wall and then Miss Margaret's house. She paused as the beginning. She paused at the beginning and the end of each pass. She moved the camera to the rock wall and walked toward it. She moved around the wall to the woods behind it. We followed. Everyone stayed silent while Lola filmed the landscape. She moved over the woods and slowly moved the camera toward the sky. She got shots of the trees above us and it looked like she even got some shots of the moon through the naked tree branches. She moved the camera over the woods and continued, pausing at the start and stop of each pass. I tapped her shoulder and she lowered the camera. Do you think that will be good? She asked. I think you did a good job, Jeremiah said. Good job, sis, Leah said. I think it's going to be great B-roll footage, I said to her. Yes, Lola said. We started walking back to my house, and Lola asked, do you want the camera back? It's okay. You keep it until we get there. She nodded with a big smile on her face and walked, holding the camera at her side with the lens facing behind her. We talked about Miss Margaret, who had the last house on our street. How old is she? Jeremiah asked. I'm not sure, 100 or close to it, I think, Leah answered. She and my grandma are good friends. They go to the same church. My grandma's in her late 70s. I added to the discussion. Your grandma's that old? Jeremiah asked. Yeah, my mom and dad are older than your guys' moms and dads. Leah and Lola nodded their heads. They already knew this. My folks got all their schooling done and had careers secured before they had me. Oh, okay. So probably no younger brother or sister in the future, Jeremiah said. I shook my head back and forth. At this moment, I thought I heard something behind us and turned around to look. The others turned their heads. What? Leah asked. Thought I heard something. Doesn't look like anything's behind us, Jeremiah said. I nodded my head and we continued walking to my house. We got to the house and went inside. The movie we were watching had gone off and the next horror film showed on the TV screen. We were not gone long, but the TV room clock said it was 12:30, so it was actually Halloween now. Hand me the camera, Lola. I'll get that converted to digital, Jeremiah said. I looked at him in surprise. Yep, I brought the stuff with me. It's in my backpack. I nodded my head. Nice. I knew I liked you for a reason. Jeremiah took the camera and said, it's still recording. My eyebrows formed a V and I slightly moved my head back. Lola, did you turn off the recording? I asked. Yes, she answered. Then why is it still recording? Jeremiah asked. I took my thumb off the record button. See, here's my thumb, not on the record button, Layla said, holding out the thumb of her right hand with her eyebrows raised. The three of us looked at each other, no expression on our faces. We then started laughing. What? She said. How did you start the recording? I asked. I held down the record button, Lola answered. You held your thumb on the record button the entire time you recorded? I asked. Yes, of course I did, she answered. You don't have to do that, Lola, Jeremiah said with a big grin on his face. Lola looked at him with a slight frown on her face and her eyes slightly squinted. She moved her eyes away from him as if she was thinking. I didn't have to hold down the record button the entire time? She asked. No, I said with a slight smile on my face. Oh. You hit the record button to record, then let it go. You hit it again to stop recording, and then let it go, Jeremiah explained. Oh, well, I didn't know that. But did I get the footage? Yes, you did. And then some, Jeremiah said. Well, that's all that matters, right? I got the footage. Yes, Lola, that's all that matters. You did a good job. Thank you, I said to her. You're welcome, she replied. Jeremiah worked on getting the B-roll footage converted to digital. To do this, he had to play the recorded video. So we were able to watch what Lola recorded. She did a good job. And it eventually got to the part of the footage where she thought she stopped recording. At this point, she still had the camera in her hand, only it was hanging at her side, filming upside down behind her. We watched and laughed, but I thought I might be able to use the odd footage when I saw something come from behind the rock wall. I heard our short conversation on the camera where I thought I heard something behind us. I focused on the footage. What's that? I asked, pointing to the screen that played the analog video for the conversion to digital. Everyone looked at the screen. No one could tell what it was. It was whitish in color and was like a blob that jerked around but slowly moved closer to the camera. It got closer and closer. We finally saw it was a person or something like a person. It had a head and arms, but we couldn't make out any legs or feet. I stared at it, watched it as it moved closer to the camera Lola carried upside down. Its arms moved in stiff and unnatural ways, like it was trying to swim or something. It would move one arm at a time, then both at the same time. It was like it was struggling against something, like a puppet fighting against a puppeteer. I focused on the puppet until we reached my house. We each turned up my driveway, and when Lola turned up the driveway, the camera no longer showed the white puppet with no legs or feet. All of us moved away from the screen. We had blank stares on our faces. None of us knew what to make of what we saw. It looked like it was following us, Leah said. Is it outside the door? I asked. Jeremiah went and looked out the glass in my front door. I don't see anything. We didn't see it when we looked behind us on our walk here, Lola said. But we can see it on the video, Leah continued. Jeremiah removed the camcorder from its attachments that were converting the analog video to digital. It had reached the end of the recording anyway. He pointed the camera at the door and looked at the flip-out screen. It's there, on the street. It's coming to the house, he shouted. I stood beside Jeremiah and looked at the flip-out screen. What I saw looked like a woman whose face wasn't normal. Her eyes looked empty. I don't mean mentally empty. It looked like there were no eyes in the sockets. They were hollow. Her mouth was shut and looked like its lips were glued shut so they couldn't open. The thing did its jerky walk to my front door, moving its arms, shoulders, and head in contorted ways. The movements were not movements a person could have done. They were exaggerated. It would raise one shoulder that reached almost to the top of its head, then move the other shoulder totally to its back without moving its body. It reminded me of the stretched Armstrong doll my dad had in his office with its rubber body and gel innards. It would bend its head to the side, then rotate to its back, as if there was no spine in its neck. But I suppose there wasn't a spine in its neck. What is it? Leah asked. I think it's a Dybbuk, Jeremiah said. What's that? Lola asked. It's a bad spirit from a dead person that enters another person's body, Jeremiah answered. That's not a person. I think it's a ghost, I said, surrendering my disbelief. Yes, a Dybbuk. It's looking for someone to enter, Jeremiah said. Oh, I answered, wondering if what I did at the house brought this thing to us. At this point, I was terrified. I didn't believe in all the demons, spirits, and soul stuff until that point. And I was totally helpless. I had no knowledge of faith or prayers or anything. I didn't know what to do. Then I heard Jeremiah saying something in Hebrew. I didn't understand what he was saying. But as I watched the whatever it was on the flip-out screen on the camcorder, it looked like what Jeremiah was saying was doing something to it. Its face stayed forward and the thing started shaking all over. It brought its hands to its face and looked like it was pulling the sides of its face. No, 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 Lola screamed after she looked at the scene on the tiny screen on the side of the camcorder. Oh, no, Leah said. Do you all know any prayers? He asked us. I shook my head no. Leah just stared at the floor. Lola started singing. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. She continued singing, and Leah joined in. I remembered the song from Vacation Bible School years ago, but the only lines I knew were the refrain, so I joined in on that. The Dybbuk looked like it tore off its face and held it to its chest. The face underneath was a replica of the face in its hands. I think what it had in its hands was a mask. The Dybbuk managed to open its mouth and shout, "Run!" All of us jumped and moved away from the door. It caused me to stumble several steps back into the TV room. I fell into my grandmother's chair and somehow caused the channel on the TV to change from the horror movie to one of my grandmother's religious channels. The TV minister on the TV told us he was going to read from the book of Psalms, verse 91. Good. That's what I was reciting in Hebrew earlier, Jeremiah said. We stood near the door, but still didn't see anything outside unless we looked at the flip-up screen on the side of the camcorder. I didn't know where our eyes could get, but the machine could. Who's that? Jeremiah asked, pointing toward the road. I looked toward the road and saw a woman standing on the sidewalk at my front walk. I think that's Rebecca. She grew up next door. She lives with Miss Margaret now in the house at the end of the street, I answered. Lola and Leah continued singing the song from Vacation Bible School. Jeremiah had stopped speaking Hebrew, but the minister on the TV continued reciting from his Bible. I heard Rebecca outside shouting something, but I couldn't understand what she said. And whatever it was outside my door that only the camcorder could see just disappeared. It's gone, I said. For now, Jeremiah added. Rebecca stayed on the sidewalk and continued shouting. We couldn't understand her, and none of us had the nerve to open the door. Midnight, what did you do when you went to that old farmhouse? Leah asked. I looked at Leah and then lowered my eyes to the floor. We don't know if what I did caused this, I answered. What did you do? Jeremiah asked. We were all startled to tears when we heard a knock on the front door. I slowly looked toward the door and saw Rebecca through the glass. I went to the door and opened it. She looked at me through slitted eyes and a piercing stare. Her brows were pushed together toward her nose, and she looked like she was clenching her jaw. I lowered my eyes. I just couldn't look at her. I stepped back. She stepped inside and closed the door. I'm sorry. I didn't believe doing it would do anything. I thought it was just a bunch of nonsense, I said, still looking down to my feet. This is a hard way to learn that it's not nonsense, Rebecca said. Yes, ma'am, it is, I agreed. What did you do, Nye? Lola asked. I explained what I did. I found some stuff in my dad's office upstairs that he found on the expedition he did locally. You know, the one that the exhibit at the university is about. He translated a ritual from a book. I did what the ritual said. I put the ritual objects on the house's back porch, and I planned on just taking some pictures and getting some video. But when I was ready to stop recording the video, I decided to recite what Dad translated. I thought I could edit it and use it in the sinister part of my project about Halloween. I didn't do the animal sacrifice. I would never do that. But as I finished saying the words, a raven crashed into the glass in the back door. The glass broke and the bird fell to the porch inside the ritual stuff. The bird died shortly after. When I went to get the ritual items I needed to bring back here, I cut my finger on a piece of the glass that landed on the porch, and I bled on the ritual site and on some of the ritual items. After that, my headlight wouldn't come on, and neither would the handheld flashlight I had with me. And after I downloaded the footage onto my computer, the camcorder's battery was almost dead. You let it out. It was contained in the house, and the evil was contained on the land. It was done in the 1880s when clergy gathered on the property and in the house. The rabbis and the ministers worked together to restrain the evil and the demons. They created a Dybbuk box using the house and the property, Jeremiah asked. No, a Dybbuk is an evil spirit of a deceased person. What was on the property and in the house was demons and evil, not the spirit of a deceased person. A single Dybbuk box would not have been able to contain what was in the house and on the property. But the rabbis and the ministers were able to create a prison for the evil. But after midnight did the ritual with the animal sacrifice, even though you didn't sacrifice the animal, what happened was an animal sacrifice. And with you giving the ritual your blood, I didn't give it my blood. It was an accident, I interrupted Rebecca. Even though it was an accident, you still gave it your blood. All this released the evil and the demon you saw tonight. Why did it tell us to run? Leah asked. That wasn't the demon. That was the spirit of the woman the demon kidnapped. I don't have all the answers to how all of this came to be on the property and in that house. I've spent my life since I was 13 studying the history of it all. The career I chose in anthropology and ancient languages helps me understand it more, but I still don't have all the answers. The four of us stood in the foyer of my house listening to Rebecca speak. She continued, because your blood was released there, you are now connected to it, like I am, and like Maggie's biological mother was. That's why Maggie is connected to it, because her mother released blood inside the house. So if you or I have any children, they will be connected to it. But now, since you released it from the property and the house, I don't know how that will affect all of those of us who are connected to it by blood. We'll have to wait and see what happens. How did you know it was here? Lola asked. Because God talks to me, Rebecca answered. What can I do right now? I asked Rebecca. You can learn prayers. Your friend, she pointed at Jeremiah, can help you learn some Jewish prayers. Your grandmother can help you learn Christian prayers. If you want, I can teach you some things. Maybe once you join in, we can fight it and defeat it. And years later, we're still fighting the fight. That's all I got.
That's good.
I wanted to bring it all full circle.
Was that like
Yeah.
a continue from your last story?
Yes, I wanted to bring it all full circle because I started with what Gemma gave us and created that. And because I had to work all those hours on that 1 week, I had to build on a story I already had. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to bring it full circle and bring it back around. So
I like it.
Yeah.
I literally was like, what? When you said Rebecca, and I was like, did you see me sit up?
I was looking at my words, so I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I did. Well, that's good, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll revisit storytelling after the first of the year. We'll see
Sure.
what happens. I have no idea what's next week. We'll figure it out.
I need to get something to eat.
All right. Dee Dee, go eat. Shalon,
Okay.
you and the girls do whatever it is you need to do. And I think I'm probably going to go soak in my tub because it's silly for a house not to have a bathtub.
It is.
All right, you guys. We'll talk
Okay.
in chat and figure out what to talk about next week. But until
Okay.
then, y'all have a good one. I love you.
I love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.